Strap yourselves in, lads, this is a biggin'. Hey guys, I'm Dov, and by the great green flows, this is by far the biggest free update we've had for Total War Warhammer 2. Greenskins Rework, coming alongside the Warden and the Paunch DLC, gives the Greenskins a squig load of new abilities and more. We'll be deep diving into the boys' battle changes today, and stay tuned for a look at the DLC next week. But before we get to that, let's quickly talk about one massive, important base mechanic change. The Strider ability has been reworked, and a similar ability called Woodsman has been added. Both of these abilities now allow unit models to pass through trees. Strider still ignores all other terrain combat penalties, such as shallow water, while Woodsman is only for forests. Units with these traits will now move much faster through the woods. This is obviously a massive buff to Beastmen and Wood Elves, as most of their units have these traits. For the Greenskins, this applies primarily to spider units, though I'm sure modders could make good use of it for more forest goblin units. But enough of the poncy forest folk, let's get to fighting! Wah! Once again, we have a new iteration of Wah, and I absolutely love the implementation. Previously, it was bound to your lord, now it's an army ability like Murderous Prowess or the Ushabti Summon. It works similarly to Murderous Prowess, but rather than counting kills, models just need to be in melee combat. When it fills, you can activate it when you choose. It can be filled and activated multiple times per battle, but each time it takes a bit more to charge up. I love this change for a few reasons. First, it incentivizes you to play melee hordes, which fits the faction theme. Cheap, high-model goblin units were already great in multiplayer, but now they have even more use, both in multiplayer and campaign as well. Second, it's a lot more consistent. Before, it could be blocked by other abilities or lost altogether with your leader. Now you'll reliably get 2 to 3 uses per battle without having to sacrifice your lord. Last, but certainly not least, each legendary lord gets their own unique version of Wah to use in campaign only. It's a nice touch that adds some new flavor to some old friends. Which brings us to the old legendary lords themselves. We'll start with the best and beloved, the one true Git, Grimgor Ironhide. Grimgor has a few new abilities. First, Best of the Best gives Grimgor 10 melee defense and 11% damage resistance when an enemy character comes within 30 meters. Also focused on enemy characters, he gets a quote-unquote assassination debuff called You're Next. This gives minus 24 melee attack, 48% speed, and minus 40 melee defense. He trades Stand Your Ground for Get Back Ear, keeping the leadership buff. Gitsnik is still the same, but the Blood-Forged armor now has a Cetra-style explosion to help Grimgor escape blobs. He's a bit bigger, though still counts as infantry, and his stat line has been slightly reworked. Next up is the other Foot Lord, Sinister Skarsnik, and his pet Goblet. Both he and the Goblin War Boss pick up a new ability called Fermented Fungi. This gives minus 24 melee defense and rampage on a selected target, and has a beautiful new animation. Tricksy Traps and Get Back Here remain the same for Skarsnik. However, Spite of the Bad Moon now gives plus 25% bonus damage and plus 16 bonus versus large in an area of effect, and is only available on Skarsnik for multiplayer. The War Boss instead gets a 2 times cast of the boss's loons, Fanatics. Speaking of Fanatics, all Fanatics are now aimable like any other wind spell. They still have a very, very short cast range, but can be used much more reliably. I'm a huge fan of Fanatics already, and maybe this will convince more people to give them a spin. While we're on the topic of Gobbos, let's finish up with the rest of their generic characters. The hero level big boss finally got an assassination debuff to match that of the Skaven and Canine assassins, giving minus 24 melee defense and minus 30 armor. The hero level shamans got no changes, but the Lord level Goblin Shaman got perhaps the biggest change of all. An Ragnarok mount! They did it! They actually did the thing I personally wanted most, making this guy an absolute powerhouse. The Catchweb Spider Shrine, as it's called, costs 1600 and makes this diminutive goblin into a horrifying monster. He still has pretty low leadership, but has the health, armor, melee stats, and even missile attack of the regular Ragnarok. He also gets a new ability, similar to Arcane Unforging, called Don't Even Try It. It deals single target direct damage and gives plus ability recharge time on target. I think I might have a new favorite generic lord. But let's not forget about the other generic lord, the Orc Warboss. He's got a fancy new area of effect, attack, and leadership buff called Smash 'em Fasta, and to replace Stand Your Ground in the skill tree gives him some great mobile support potential. The other Wyvern Lord, the ever-present Azag, gets some love as well, finally getting legendary items with active effects. Slagga Slashes gives a superb, constant plus 10 melee attack and plus 4 leadership. Azag's Odd Armor is essentially a souped-up shield of chocolates, giving 30 armor and plus 24 melee defense for 38 seconds. As for the last character, Wurzag didn't receive any major changes, and he didn't really need any. He's long been seen as the most competitive, but now he has some serious competition. Last, let's finish up by having a look at the new special Hua Units. These lads will sometimes show up in your Hua stacks in campaign. They're listed as campaign exclusive in multiplayer, so you won't be seeing them in quick battle, but let's have a look at what they offer. First up, Armored Squig Hoppers. These are better Squig Hoppers in every way, with improved armor, leadership, attack, and defense. You can tell by looking, these are some elite gobbos. Also elite gobbos, we have two variants of Lava Spiders. First, Lava Spider Archers pick up flaming and armor piercing on both melee and ranged attack while maintaining their poison. The Lava Arachnarok also picks up fire, missile, and melee attacks, plus two new abilities. The first is a Mortis-style drain effect with a 30-meter range called Thermal Thorax. Next, it has a local bombardment called Arachniruption. Yes. All of these are mostly straight upgrades over the base unit for little to no extra cost, so probably good they're excluded from quick battle. The Hua armies can also pick up two feral monsters. First is the familiar Hydra, stolen directly from the Dark Elf roster. Has all the same heads and hats, regen, breath attacks, missile resistance, etc. Second is a Feral Wyvern, coming in at 1500 points, which seems fairly balanced. This is 150 cheaper than a Warboss on Wyvern with no abilities, and has slightly lower stats to compensate. With excellent attack, charge, and AP plus poison, this happy boy compares favorably to other flying monsters, despite lacking a breath attack. Out of all the Hua units, this is the one I think should be included for quick battle. Last but certainly not least, we have the Super Squig. This is essentially a bloated corpse, but more orange and teethy, with even the same cost. Pop the Squig minigame, anyone? I've pretty much covered all the battle focus changes. Tune in next time to see some of these changes in motion. Next week, we'll be diving into the DLC units for both factions, so be sure to subscribe and press the bell for notifications. Give the video a like and share it if you found it helpful. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.